$2.7 billion in 2014 to a mere $3.7 billion in 2023, representing roughly about 85% decline. This represents a staggering drop of $19 billion over the last decade, reflecting broader concerns about market stability and investor confidence. As we navigate through these turbulent financial times, we are joined by a seasoned guest analyst to dissect these trends, uncover the underlying issues, and chart a course for Nigeria's economic resurgence. Don't go anywhere, stay with us as we explore the intricacies of Nigeria's market dynamics and the path to recovery. I'll be back after this short break. Thank you for staying with us on the show today. We're going to be dissecting the issue as it concerns the foreign direct investment and the steep decline of over 85% that Nigeria is currently experiencing. And as usual, I'm joined by our experienced guest analyst, Steve Nwachukwu. Steve Nwachukwu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thanks again for having me.
Wonderful. I hope your investments are intact, because this morning we're going to be looking deeply into investment into Nigeria and what the issues are. Are your investments intact?
Hopefully, it's the prayer of every investor in the country. With the rate at which things are going, foreign direct investment also has a way of affecting local investment.
So, can you provide us, a sense into the foreign direct investment and some of those factors? Because as we all can attest to, it's no longer news because it has been all over the news media news space for the past 1 week that our foreign direct investment has experienced the worst decline in over a decade. Can you provide us a sense on what are these factors that are contributing to this decline?
It cannot be far from those same factors that will increase the flow of forex. So whatever that affects it, the opposite will be what will actually improve the inflows of this very forest. Just like your statistics read, your data you read that in the last 10 years and more, we have witnessed a consistent drop in the flow of foreign direct investment into the shores of Nigeria. Come to think of it, for the sake of, for the purpose of your viewers, what is this foreign direct investment? What constitutes this very foreign direct investment? In a nutshell, a foreign direct investment is that very inflow of foreign investors into your economy. They can play in the financial sector, in the agri sector, or in the tourism sector, name it, every other, the hotelier sector, they can, in all aspects of your economy, bringing that investment that needed to expand your economy. So that's simply what, when I brings in money to invest in agriculture, or to invest in the health sector, or invest in the transportation sector, or invest in the financial sector, developing a hospital, or producing one goods like in the food chains, like the food sector, or even industrial sector. These are what we call foreign direct investment. So,
yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
So that's what constitutes what foreign direct investment is.
Yeah. So my point now is, because part of this foreign direct investment ought to come, like you are talking about playing in different sectors of the economy, they ought to come by way of equity investment or by way of reinvesting. If we have foreign companies that are in Nigeria, operating in Nigeria, and after making profit, instead of repatriating that profit to their mother country, they can reinvest those profit back into the economy, into the local economy. So my point is it that the business climate is not conducive enough on one front, or is it that Nigeria is not growing companies that can attract foreign equity investors that can come in and invest in those companies?
Okay, thank you so much. The segment you're talking about, equity investment, is the segment of the entire business foreign indirect investment. It can also come as foreign portfolio investment. So when you use the word equity, it simply implies that they are coming to invest in an existing company, to take an equity investment in that company, become shareholders of the company, and become co-owners of an existing investment that is in existence. Take, for instance, we are talking about recapitalization of our commercial banks. So whatever investment that comes in that form is an equity investment because you become a shareholder. But most often, most of the foreign direct investment actually come as a fresh business. They may have Nigerian collaborators, those who facilitate such businesses to help them acquire lands so that those factories will be set up, or those who help them to acquire some licenses or regulatory approvals. Those are becoming their partners. So most often is quite a fresh investment coming in this regards. But whatever be it, whether equity investment, fresh as virgin investment, or after outright acquisition of a 16 company in Nigeria, we need it. They are all classified as foreign direct investment. Even when it comes as foreign direct inflow or foreign portfolio investment, which is all in capital importation, portfolio investments can also come, is still in form of that very capital importation. So we need it. Whatever that brings forests, we need it.
Now, so the issue now is, if we are not getting all this, whether it's portfolio, whether it's equity investment from these international investors to bring in these foreign currencies into the country, how is that going to affect, let me quickly bring this to your attention as well. This morning, a report from the IMF came up later this morning showing that Nigeria's economy, that we have been trumpeting as the largest economy in the world, has become the fourth. We have drifted from the first economy in terms of size and scale in African continent to the fourth, with South Africa topping the chart. So now, could this all be the reason why we are drifting, and how will all this affect the stability of the country, the stability of our currency, and the growth prospect that has actually been projected for this year?
Thank you so much. The report actually have, justified or vindicated most of us who has been calling on federal government to desist from devaluation of Naira. The more you devalue the Naira, the more we lose our GDP. We are growing less than 2.5% or 2.7% per the IMF and World Bank projection for 2024. I think it's around 3.2 or 3% growth.
About 3.2.
And why we needed to be growing, 3.2. Why we needed to be growing above 4%, 5% to 6%. In fact, the target of this very administration, 6.5% growth in 2024 budget proposal. I think they had that projection of GDP growth of 6 or 6.5% or 7.5%. So why would South Africa, Egypt, and the rest of them not overtake us when you deliberately, when you arbitrarily devalue your currency? As we speak, the total GDP price of our current economy is like around 470 or 480 billion dollars. It has dropped down to somewhere around less than 400 billion dollars. So the more you have a stiffer economic space, just like your report also provides over 85% drop in inflows of forex, yes, from somewhere an average of 19 billion to 3 billion. It means that Nigeria is not a destination for international investors. So what has happened? You can't take away the insecurity, the lack of conducive working environment. We have witnessed the activities of the Boko Haram. From Boko Haram, it migrated to bandits, it migrated to whatever, from Boko Haram to farmer header, to bandits, and the rest of them. So a lot of economic trials are going on because these are not giving us the right picture for the investors who live in UK, who live in US, who live in Texas, to come to Nigeria and make investments. Like I said, they call foreign direct investment is when they come, they open up a factory, a business, a processing company, or a whatever form of factories. The real foreign direct investment. They open an IT company. A lot, like I said, they play in every sector, or they build a hotel.
Yeah.
So how on earth will a man hearing what is going on, the bomb blast, the rest of them, insecurity, the bandits, the kidnapping, want to come in such a situation to invest? So security is one of those factors that have in these numbers that you've read in these last 10 years.
Yeah.
So government needs to sit up and make sure that this very insecurity is tackled.
It's lit in the board.
No investor, no matter what be the road shows do in UK, in Europe, and the rest, they cannot come unless you have a conducive working environment. Thank you.
Now, let me quickly also point this out that few years back, say within 10 years back, we had companies, tech initiatives, tech companies that grew into a unicorn, all right, and with that attracted a lot of investors. For instance, we know that one of the companies was bought over by Stripe, and others, even had to open offices across Africa and across the globe. We are not seeing much of that this time around. You see, within the past administration, we are not seeing tech companies that are, coming up strongly, attracting investment. Of course, we understand the challenge of COVID-19 that also happened, but in the recent meeting, World Bank spring meeting, the finance minister, was asked why that investors were kind of apprehensive, about the corruption, the speed of corruption in Nigeria. That is one of the reasons that they were not really turning up into the country. Now, looking at that question, of course, the finance minister pointed out that even the foreign investors are also corrupt. All right, in response to that, I don't know if you saw that argument. But my point is, with what is happening today, because the news just broke that the former governor of Kogi State has been in the hiding. The security agencies have not been able to actually or factually, arrest him and charge him. So putting all this together, in addition to the insecurity that you pointed out, don't you think corruption, and the perception of corruption that the international community will have could also be a factor in reducing, the inflow of foreign direct investment in Nigeria?
I think I wouldn't like our conversation to be centered around the blame game, whether these international key players are the corrupt or Nigerians are both. In every business, there is always this atom of one trying to cheat others. So that's why you need a judiciary system to settle any of the business disputes and apply justice to all. So, but is there an incubation, an environment that incubates corruption? Is there a sanely incubating corrupt practices in our environment? The answer is yes. In as much as I will join the Minister of Finance to accuse those foreigners, because we have seen a lot that happened. The PNG, the one you to be case against Nigeria in a UK court, slamming us with close to a $10 billion judgment and the rest. You also find out that some of these very foreign investors who want to collaborate with local criminals to siphon money. So, yes, we know that those things exist, but the strong majority of genuine investors are not corrupt. A strong majority of Nigerians who have developed their business are looking for foreign partners are not corrupt. So let's not center this discussion on those few individuals who wants to change the system or who wants to outsmart the system. So the chunk of businesses are going on who are genuine, not just like we are talking about recapitalization of our commercial banks. Those investors that will be looking into our banks, it's a quite genuine business.
Yeah.
Those in the bureau, as we speak on Monday, International Bureau secured close to 380 million worth of tax, 80 million worth of debt relief from one of the international investors. 380 million. A single company attracted. So these are the kind of giant strides we needed. These are investment coming to Nigeria. I said on Monday, International Brewery secured that because of the backlogs of debt and the differences of the devaluations that first have eroded their financial statement. So they needed a lot of money so that they can wipe up this very debt. And they just secured it. One of their parent company agreed to bring in this $380 million investment. So these are the kind of breakthroughs we needed. Nigerian breweries is also undertaking theirs. In days to come, they will come up because they're also having some of these very dollar-related debts that have been eating up their financial books. So we need such kind of object that will bring this inflows of dollars, foreign direct investments that we needed most. So yes, given the fact that there will be some sharp practices, but we need, that's why in this very attracting this foreign direct investment, you need those key components or key features or structures within the ease of doing business. One of them, which should be the strongest pillar, is a very strong judicial system that can strictly settle any business or dispute that comes out within your business. So once you have such kind of judicial system that settles such, you will not be having these sharp practices or inter practices or individual who wants to indulge in such kind of activity. So all structural ease of doing business should be intact and should be put in place so that we can have these very inflows coming or flowing into the shores of Nigeria. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now that is a very insightful analysis there, Steve. But you know, I'm looking at the fact that okay, if foreign direct investment is falling this fast, and of course, of recently too, we are also being inundated with the fact that our foreign reserve has also been depleted, and there is this argument out there that the foreign reserve was being used to defend the currency, our local currency, the naira. Now, put all this together, what are the long-term implications for our stability, our economic stability, and the long-term implication for even our foreign reserve? Because I understand that foreign reserve is something that is critical for every country to be able to sustain, you know, the value of their currency. How do you make of all these complications in the economy?
Yes, in as much as your perspective definition of foreign reserve is what it takes. Then in the issue of defense of your currency or using the reserve to defense, there are also perspective to it. One can also say, yes, the engagement of the Central Bank of Nigeria using what we have as foreign reserve to defend the naira simply means they are carrying out their legitimate daily functions. What is the daily functions of the CBN? Is to provide those forex that is needed to conduct or to complete the balance of payments. By the time you are buying, CBN, Nigerian bank will provide those forex to that country, to those business you are engaging in China, or engaging in UK, engaging. So it's legitimately used. What you have is what you. When also we have indirect investment flowing in, it still comes down to the custody of the Central Bank of Nigeria. It's not going to any individual. So whatever you have, those inflows are there with them. So CBN is there to manage most of these inflows. That's why they are going on roadshow looking for this forex. Yes, we have an internal inflows that comes directly from the sales proceeds of the crude, which is directly there to also help to support this.
Which is no longer enough from all education.
Which is no longer enough. That's why we are looking from all angles so that we can have sufficient, so that we can meet our balance of payment. So that be it. So if it's used for defense of our exchange rate, is okay, because whatever revolves around our exchange rate also tells what inflation rate would be, tells what the standard of living would be, tells that how healthy our economy becomes, because we are an import dependent country. So government needs to also work around this very incentivizing the economy, making sure there is some like kind of a trade zone, a free trade zone, or tax cuts, or what you can also say tax relief to companies. You can give a kind of a gestation, tax gestation or tax gestation for new companies that is coming in. You will not pay tax in the next 5 years, in the next 6 years, or in the next 10 years. You will start by paying digs. So such kind of incentives attract foreign direct investment. So every other tools needs to be deployed to attract these investors. But most importantly, like I mentioned here, should be the issues around insecurity, dealing with insecurity. No new investor will want to move into a place that is not well secured. Thank you.
Now, we'll be going for a quick break, but before we go for that break, so that we can bring in the news roundup across the globe, I want you to quickly give me a sense of, beyond the incentives that you just highlighted, are there other things? Because I'm more interested in how can we develop, how can we build companies, all right? Because if you look at the US, if you look at the Chinese and some other, developed economies, you discover that there is this connection, this bond, this support that they give to specific companies, specific sectors of the economy. So my question is, looking at the example of the brewery that you gave that attracted that fund, could that be a signal that is where international investors are looking into? Because it's all about indicators. It's all about investors' confidence and in which sector that investors are having more confidence. So I'm looking at it. Is it that it is in the what do we call it now? The beverage sector or the drink sector that investors, the brewery sector that the investors are looking at? And is it possible for the government to look into that and begin to see how they can create some form of competitiveness in that space?
Thank you so much. I just cited an example of how to attract foreign direct investment. But generally speaking, it is just the general healthiness of your economy. That's what you just need to improve. It cannot be said, but you can fix some special areas that you needed to also, improve better. Just like we did in like 30 years ago or 20 years ago, we specifically widened and gave room in our telecoms, and telecom brought a lot of resources. Yes. And that was why Nigeria had jumped to the largest economy in Africa, because we gave room, we dedicated some votes of money, we liberalized and let open telecom industry. Why you see the likes of Glo, MTN, Airtel, all of them came into the market, huge investment came in alongside, and they expanded that very telecom. And that was what led us or catapulted us to the first position as the largest economy in Africa. So, like you said, yes, there can be some sectorial dedication or specified sectors that one can, like you talked about the fintech. You can also expand this area. Like you said, the silicon is there in US, attracting more investments, businesses seeing the growth and the rest of them, and huge billions of dollars are being pumped in there. Take overs and the rest. So the start generally needs to be, government needs to start understanding that the best to expand your economy is to invest in your population, have a healthier population. Like I said earlier, it's a general healthiness of the economy that attracts these investors. It must not be a particular sector. So the startup can cut across the health sector. In fact, even as we speak, the health sector can also take us back, opening up with policies, incentives, and the rest of them, and you see huge investment that will move into the health sector, and a lot of expansion will be done, and we will return back to the first position. So the question of determination of the political leadership to see through these very issues that we are discussing and see areas we have best advantage, so that it can be expanded and grow our economy. So startups needs to be encouraged. It has to come beyond this, what you have as the student loan scheme. You also open up other grants levels that will encourage entrepreneurs, young men and women who are coming up with genuine and virgin ideas that you can support. In the next 2, 3, 4 years, those businesses must have been grown. You start seeing people coming to take over them or have equity investment in them, running in millions of dollars. These are the ways government needs to be doing. So as we speak, Ministry of Communication should, or even the Ministry of Science and Technology should be looking towards this area. How can we enhance these young men that are moving out and leaving the universities? What are those research materials? What are those techniques they have developed? What are those projects they have done as a projects in their university for their final year? How can we invest in those areas so that in the next 10, harness them so that in the next 5, 6 years they become a very structural good businesses that international investors will be looking into. So we can, if we have the right political leadership, to harness these very opportunities available. So we can. The startups are a good example, both in the fintech and in other sectors that they can use technology to solve a lot of problems or open up the economy. So we can do it. So it's a question of direct investment in these areas, building capacity of these individuals. Like I said earlier, it's a general healthiness of the economy. Investors are looking at the disposable income of your nation. If you have a richer population, a population with a dear disposable income to spend and buy those products that they are coming in to develop or to produce, they will come in. We're having a poorer population, just like we are witnessing, as people are being displaced in the northeast, in the north central, and the rest of it's contributing to the poor nation. So factors are going out there that now we have 148 multidimensional poor Nigerians. It's a bad signal that you cannot A poor man cannot buy the product. So that deters these foreign indirect investors from coming in. If you have a good disposable income, a population that has a good disposable income, it attracts this very foreign indirect investment.
Yeah.
It's a general heaviness of the economy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, I think you are well in line. I was just being concerned about the ability of our leaders, our political leaders, to be able to look, because you talk about where we have the best advantage, because if you look at China developed or grew on the strength of their population, and you look at our population, we also have a similar opportunity. And I think if you also look at our consumer purchase index, looking at the fact that today an average Nigeria spends over 70 to 80% of their, because we talk about disposable income, over 70 to 80% of Nigeria's income is being spent on household consumptions. All right, so we need to also begin to look at that space and see how we can broaden development and broaden development for potential investors to be able to come into that space. I'm going to come back to you on that, but before that, let's quickly go for this break to take the news roundup, and I'll come back to you, Steve, and our viewers.